Hey guys, it's Eric here at Farpoint Farms. Check it out. As part of the 1-year anniversary of Hurricane Helene hitting the mountains of North Carolina, I've decided to make a whole series of videos covering radio and its purpose in the storm. Last time I talked about basic radios, just the bare minimum that every household should have. And I got a lot of cool comments on it. People were just absolutely blown away that most folks, more than half of the population, doesn't have a simple AM or AM FM radio in their home. Like, they just don't. A lot of them have cell phones that have FM radio capability, although I doubt that half of the people that have cell phones know that there oftentimes is a built-in FM transmitter, or not transmitter, but receiver in there. Anyway, that video got a lot of response, and most of it was positive. So we're going to move on with what I found to be the most useful radio in the storm, and that was this, a scanner. And in my case, I had nothing more than this analog scanner. This was a unit in Bearcat. I was using at the time a Realistic Pro 2044, I think it was. It may have been a 2021. Analog, not even trunking. This one is a trunk tracker, but just a plain old analog scanner. And while most of the municipalities in my areas, within range of here anyway, would have gone to digital signals at that point, what I found, what was really incredible to hear and see happen and play out around me, was that because of the amount of help that was coming up, because of the amount of people working for churches, working for nonprofits, things like that, of course, FEMA and the National Guard and all these other companies and all these other units and all these other organizations arriving on site, that regular old-fashioned, in the clear analog radio, two-way radio, really was what saved the day and really was the number one form of communication during the storm. When I usually get scrolling through with this thing and letting it scan, I would get some 2-meter traffic from one of the repeaters when the conditions are right. I don't get repeater traffic here at the house, unfortunately, because of just the way the property is laid out. But I would occasionally get some of that, some GMRS and FRS traffic, but very rarely. Usually from where I live, there is a ski slope about 35, 40 miles from here, maybe 35 miles from here, but it's actually at a much higher elevation. And even FRS, two little family radios, oftentimes can be picked up with this or with the GMS scanner that I have up top there. So those were kind of picked up, obviously, because people were using that. But two-way business band and 2-meter radio just really took off, as did UHF and VHF radio just in general. So this became quite a valuable piece of equipment here on the farm, and actually the most for hearing what was going on. For instance, the crews fixing power. I could hear what was going on, where they were in the state, where they were in the community. The areas that were not going to get power back anytime soon, I'll give you a hint, that was mine. And some of the areas that were likely to get fixed that day. And so as the days ticked off, I could tell you, hey, well, I know that I'm still going to be without power today, so let me go ahead and get more water and get the toilets refilled, stuff like that. We're going to be taking a shower outside again, that kind of thing. So that was awesome. A lot of you commented when I talked about this during or right after the storm that analog was basically useless, and I was really surprised to hear people saying that. While it's useless, in quotes, for stuff like listening to police activity or fire EMS rescue in most areas now, it certainly still had a big use here in the storm. But because of that, I did go ahead, and I'm going to slide that off to the side here. I'll kind of keep it in frame so you can see the old versus the new. I have this behind it, and I'll make a separate video on this, but this is a Uniden Trunk Tracker 5. It is the BCD 996 P2. It is a P2 capable digital tracking scanner. I mean, it is top of the line. It was not cheap. I bought it used, still paid over $300 for it. And of course, like I said, I'll cover it more in depth in a future video. But if you are interested in getting all those encrypted police and fire and EMS and businesses, I mean, there's so much that's out there, unfortunately digital now, this thing will do it. Now, programming it, absolutely impossible. If I had had this thing sitting in a closet before the storm happened and took it out during the storm and tried to figure out how to get access to those channels, never would have happened in a million years. What I ended up doing with this, because I attempted to program it myself, it was just, I mean, it was to put all 160 channels that I had in this thing took me all of about 45 minutes. Just copy and paste from the screen on the computer, type in the code, hit enter, and it was in there. To do the same on this was about 45 minutes per channel. And I know that I'm not the most intelligent individual out there, but I felt like it was just incredibly difficult. What a huge learning curve. In fact, when I bought it, which was pretty much right after things returned to normal here on the farm, I attempted to play with it for like the first month and then sat on it, like literally just left it sitting there, and it went unused for so long because of the complexity. But there's a website called radioreference.com, I think it is, and they offer, that's where I would go to find all the frequencies and offsets and everything for all that. Well, they also offer a programming package where you can pay, I think it was $19 or $19.99 for 3 months. Download all the areas you want directly to your computer, and you can group them and then upload them directly into this thing. And I'll tell you what, it's flawless. It worked beautifully. I paid the $19.95. I uploaded all of it. I played around with it 2 or 3 times, figuring out what other counties I might be able to hear. Then I added in some state trooper frequencies in case there was some around here, and even some FBI and ICE and stuff like that. So like stuff that we don't have anywhere near us, but there might be in our area in North Carolina using that equipment. I programmed it in just because it can do all that. And of course, that has returned scanner radio to what it was in the 80s. I mean, you can hear it all, and you can hear it all the time. I could turn this on right now, and I guarantee you it's a Saturday afternoon. There's probably people getting pulled over. There's probably people who have fallen down and hurt themselves. There are probably people who are wandering around and doing bad things, and they're getting in trouble. And so it's interesting to hear that sort of stuff. But I can say, and so, if a budget is a big concern for you, and of course it is for me, this was not a cheap investment, that these are available for $20, $30, $40, $50 at most on eBay. Radio Shack makes a whole slew of these things. I've owned a ton of them. In fact, that's the first analog unit, and I think that I've used long term. I did have like maybe a 65 XLT that was just like a 20 channel one when I first got started playing in scanner radio. But the realistic models are just incredible. As long as they start with a 2, you're going to have a pretty darn good radio for listening to on analog. And there's a lot still out there. So even if you're not listening to police, don't think that a scanner, an analog scanner, is a useless piece of equipment. Bus drivers, dump truck drivers, the sanitation workers, road construction crews, construction guys that might be in your area, like anything that's FRS, GMRS, business band, 2 meter, so some ham band stuff, it's all going to be in there. And some of the later scanners included, frequencies way out of like CB and 10 meter and stuff like that, depending on what you look for. So scanner radio really, really, really kept me the most informed out of all the types of radio that were out there. And I think that was a big surprise to me. And I think when I brought it up a year ago, it was a big surprise to many of you, because a lot of people think two-way radio is the only way. And honestly, what did I have to say? What did I have to say in the middle of a crisis that would have changed anything, helped anyone, or not just gotten in the way? In my case, I was so isolated out here that there was nothing I could do other than help my immediate neighbors. And that's pretty much where it was at. So for me, listening, knowing timelines, knowing if I needed food, or if, thankfully I have a freshwater spring on my property, so we just collected water from it. But for all the people that didn't have access to water, their wells, the pumps are offline. If they needed fuel, a lot of the fuel stations in our area, the fuel was contaminated or just downright replaced with water because it had just flooded in and ruined everything, not to mention no power at any of those places. So scanner radio really provided the detailed information that I needed without even really asking for it. Is incredible, the stuff that you could hear from it. Now, our local AM radio station, when power was restored to it and they got the antenna back up and running there, a little difficult, well, not a little, a lot difficult to hear here. They were having their hourly updates on some of the more public stuff, but Scanner gave me that sneak peek into what was going on in my community, and I really enjoyed that. Anyway, that's it for this part. The next time we get into this, we're going to talk about the 3 types of radios that are two-way that may have made a difference during a crisis. Ham radio, CB radio, and GMRS/FRS radio. So I'll see you in a few weeks with that discussion. Until then, take care.